Today, I'll try to summarize a few things for you. We will get into more details of the model, the system model, because, I mean, this is all about seeing the system, right? So yesterday we had a snapshot of the system, right? Today we'll go over it. The relationships, how it actually play in real life, and what happens over time. But before that, I'll speak a bit about the context that any startup works in. So we'll speak about stakeholders, and we'll speak about differences between industries, because throughout these workshops we have been speaking in general terms, but in reality there is lots of differences between a biomedical startup, an internet startup, consumer product startup, and so forth, robotic startup, right? And we will speak about differences in the location, the geography that you are working on. I know that few people who sign up for these workshops are international students. No, they might be going back to their countries. What are differences in terms of dynamics between different geographies? And as usual, we will have a small game, not too long. Yeah, we will speak a little bit about more details. Like, you understood the system. What do you need to do after we finish today? So more of actions that you need to work on, things that, depending on the stage you are in, you should be taking these actions. Good plan? Any special requests? For those who came for the first time today, do you have any problems, any questions, so that I want to make sure that you are in line with what we're discussing? Good? Okay. Very good. So, yeah, I have been delaying this for some time, but I want to tell you my story. I have been trying to resist this for the last two workshops, and I managed to do that. But why I'm doing that? So I started my career in Siemens, large company, right? And I didn't like it much, because in large companies you get lost, right? You get lost. So many things happening around you. You're just a small gear in a huge machine. And you lose perspective of, I mean, what's the importance of what I'm doing? What's the importance of these kind of reports or these kind of tasks I'm working on? And at Siemens, I actually got involved with few process re-engineering stuff, and more of looking at whole departments at once. And this was very exciting for me, because although I was not looking at the whole company, but I was looking at a manageable building unit of the whole company. And I got involved with lots of process re-engineering and lots of improvement initiatives involved with many things: financials, processes, business processes, IT systems, CRM systems, implementing CRM systems. It was fascinating. And at that time, I got heavily involved with the Boy Scouts. This is the logo of the International Organization for Scout Movement, right? And I come from Egypt, and in Egypt, we don't like systems. We are very spontaneous. We don't have any system for anything. Everything is random. If you go to Cairo, cars and people are living in harmony in the streets. In harmony, right? There is no traffic lights. There is no places to cross streets, nothing. It's harmony in best scenarios, right? So, and I'm contrary to that. My personality is more systematic, more structured. So, and it was the same. Whenever we were trying to start a new scout troops, there was no way this is the way you do it. And everyone was trying different things, and many times it failed, and all sorts of problems. And if you are starting a scout troop, it's a very typical startup exercise. Very typical. The only thing is there is no emphasis on money, right? But you still need it. You need to raise funding, right? So I have been through starting troops at least 5 times, right? And this was actually like where I started thinking about, if you want to start an organization, what would be the best way to do that? And this was back in, I would say, 1998. I started thinking about this idea. And somehow I got obsessed with the idea. I couldn't get it out of my mind. And everywhere I go, I think about why this company is successful, why this university is successful, why is this is a failing agency. Everywhere I go, I do this analysis. And I started to do my own reading. And at that time, around 2007, Nokia and Siemens, Nokia Networks and Siemens Communication, they announced a global merger, right? Massive thing, lots of disruption, and like everyone was scared. They will do massive layoffs and all sorts of things. At that time, I was very interested. I found it an opportunity, and I put together a proposal on how we should manage disintegration in Egypt. I took this proposal, I went to the CEO, I said, this is my way on like how I see we should manage this kind of change. He got very interested and put me in charge of managing disintegration in Egypt. We're integrating 2 companies, 700 people, 3 offices, all sorts of taxation, IT systems, all sorts of things. It was an amazing exercise for a couple of years, and 2 years were more than enough to be immersed in this exercise. If you have been through a merger, you know how it looks like. So, but it was an amazing learning experience, getting into the ins and outs of any organization, any company, right? And 700 people is like medium to large size company. Starting troops, scout troops are more of small organization experience. Later on, after this merger exercise, I was promoted to be an account manager for a bunch of accounts in North Africa. We were selling large telecommunication networks, multi-million euros networks. And it was interesting, life was good, but I was not happy because I was still having this obsession about this idea of how we can build successful companies and how we can have some sort of a system for it. I became very convinced that if we want to like tap this problem, the only approach we should take is a system approach. And I started reading in this space, and I said, I need to focus. I want to spend my life doing that. So I found this amazing program in MIT called Systems Design and Management. And this is a joint program between Sloan School of Management and Engineering System Division. So it was like heaven for me. This was like the best formula. I applied. Somehow they did an error in the admission and they got me accepted. So I went to the program, and I felt at home. Finally, I felt at home, and I felt like I'm trying to handle this obsession, right? And while in this program, I read a book by an amazing guy. If you are interested in this like systems and organization stuff, his name is Russell Acuff. I don't know if you heard about him, but he wrote many books about systems and organization. One of these books is called Recreating the Corporation. This was written in the 70s and the 60s, very old book. The interesting thing that many of the problems he was describing, we're still suffering from. All organizations, like 21st century organizations, they are suffering from the same problems that he was describing in the 70s and the 60s. And he was speaking about the fact that we should be using system principles, system approaches, and we should integrate this into the way we design, the way we manage organization. So I got very interested and in his writing, because this was my belief, and he was like confirming my belief now in like actual words that I couldn't describe. And he said a very interesting statement that changed my life. He said, if we really want to know or learn, he was a bit critical about MBA programs, and he said, if we really want to teach people how to build and manage companies, we should actually get them to build and run companies. This is the only way to learn it, because it's too complex. We cannot teach them in a classroom about it. So I got very interested and said, okay, I need to start my own company in the US now. So I found my co-founder, David, and we started together ePowerhouse. Actually, David started ePowerhouse like a few months before me, and I joined, and we worked together in ePowerhouse. And what ePowerhouse is doing is actually trying to help more entrepreneurs and more startups to succeed. So it was very much in line with the kind of research topic and the kind of obsession I have. And the kind of approach we took in ePowerhouse is we found that startups, they need to be attached to some sort of a startup cluster or a startup community. This could be an entrepreneurship club, an entrepreneurship center, startup competition, an incubator. These kind of like communities, they come together, they connect together, they have like a mailing list and they share stuff. So most of startups, they are connected to a cluster. And what we found is there are almost no tool in the market to manage these clusters. And at a certain point, it becomes very complex and very hard to provide support for the startups in your cluster, right? So because it's a very manual process, there is no way to scale. Like, for example, if you want to bring mentors, I mean, there is physical limitation. I mean, you cannot get infinite supply of mentors for the startups you have. So we said, okay, why don't we use technology and artificial intelligence in helping these kind of clusters? So we started working on this in ePowerhouse. We had some success. We got few clients. Actually, the city of Boston, the Office of Business Development is one of the clients we have. We have another client in Egypt, American University in Cairo, and we have another client in Africa. So those are like the main clients that we're working on. And the whole idea, it's a platform for managing and scaling startup clusters. So this was, again, an amazing opportunity to learn more about the dynamics of starting companies in the US. And it was an amazing platform to apply many of the ideas and many of the things that I reach out to in my research. While doing that, I did some consulting for the World Bank about how countries implement entrepreneurship and industrial policy. So this was an eye-opener for not only the dynamics of the startup, but also the ecosystem that startups will work on. And after finishing my program, my program, I haven't finished the problem, but finished my program, and I got a very interesting offer from an interesting company here in Cambridge called Vecna. And Vecna works in robotics technology. They have other like IT technology, but robotics is kind of the genesis of the company, and they focus on the healthcare sector. And what I'm doing at Vecna is I'm focusing on financing the R&D activities and working a little bit on the commercialization of whatever they invent in the R&D. So it's also very close to this idea of how you can take an idea to the next level. And then I said, okay, this is interesting, but I want to share the kind of conclusions I reached out to. So, many years back, I read an interesting quote that says that a treasure that you don't spend from is like a science that you do not share, or knowledge that you do not share is like a treasure that you're not spending from. So I said, okay, I don't want to do that. So I want to share the knowledge because while I'm doing that, I'm also learning. So I learn a lot from the kind of feedback you give to me and the kind of connections that I build over the years from people like speaking with me, bouncing ideas, and bouncing opportunities. So this is where I come from. This is the whole evolution, I would say. Did I answer your question on the first day?
Yes, you did.
It's a little bit late answer, but here you go. You got your answer. Okay, so what are we going to do today? With the context. So this is your startup. Okay? We want to think about people, groups of people, distinct groups of people that are somehow dealing or interacting with your startup. Those are the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders in your startup?
Friends, family.
Okay. What else? You all know the difference between stakeholders and stockholders, right? Okay. Anyone need any clarification? Okay. So friends and family. What else?
Any investors.
Huh?
Any investors.
Investors.
Other startups.
Say again?
Other startups.
All the startups? What do you mean by startups? Other startups? How about partners? Okay. It could be startups, it could be other companies. What else? Yeah, co-founders. Yes. Or founding team in general. Who else? Huh? Customers. Are there different types for customers? What are the different types?
Well, there's different state of customers in terms of how vested they are.
No, not the state.
Early adapters.
Not this one. This is also the state.
Users.
Users are not customers. Who said users? Okay. We can add this as another category. What's the difference between users and customers?
The user is going to use the product or technology, and the customer is going to pay for that.
Exactly. You could have users, but they are not necessarily customers, right?
Yeah, users are users, customers are customers.
Here we go. Thank you. So customers are users who pay you. If they are users not paying you, they are users.
There are also customers who are investors.
Could be. I mean, it could be a co-founder who is also investing. You can do all sort of like combining. The answer I was looking here that you have consumers and businesses, right? So you could have your customers could be individuals or could be companies or organizations, right? Which usually refer to like business to consumer. This is a business model, so it's business to consumer, your business selling to consumers, or business to business, right? You are selling to organizations. Great, what else? We still have few.
Government.
Government. Why government is a stakeholder?
Legally.
Okay. You need to incorporate, you need to register. What else? Taxes. What else? Permits, licensing. Certain businesses, they need special license for, right? And so forth.
That includes patents.
Yeah, I would say patents too. Yeah. What else? Other stakeholders. Huh?
Community.
What do you mean by community?
Where your location is and the people who are near you. It's not something that's very thought about very much, but you know the.
Why they are important for the start?
You know, location. You know, there are certain types of businesses that are they're capable of being located in a certain place because of the flexibility or non-flexibility of the community.
Is there a value exchange happening here between the community and the start?
No, not as much now, but in the past, yes.
Okay.
And still to some degree.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Community. What else?
It's not a big, you know, not something people think about.
Yeah, but it's happening. Yeah.
It's a big deal in Cambridge, actually, with all the real estate development over here. They tend to piss the community off quite a bit.
How?
Well, because in general, Cambridge is becoming quite a hub for technology.
True.
Real estate prices go up.
Yeah.
People who used to live here, who are low to middle income housing, get pushed out. But they have a fairly large base, and they tend to be more local. So they tend to go to all these permit gatherings and all that, and oppose it. So
Interesting. Interesting.
especially in this area in Canada.
So they could have influence on the government regulation, right?
Yeah, it's a big deal. Now, on the flip side, before the types of businesses that were located in the vicinity of major airports were businesses that were very nitty-gritty.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Metal sintering, candy factories.
Very
you know,
interesting.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. Good point.
Suppliers.
Suppliers. Who are suppliers?
Like they could be you're getting your raw material from.
Yeah. So what's the difference between suppliers and partners?
partners, I feel like you're more coordinating with them strategically to generate the project, whereas suppliers, they might not necessarily be coordinating.
They're supplying you with like basic material, basic components, right? But partners could be like developing some parts of the product with you, right? What else?
Employees.
Yes, the team. So the founding team is a little bit different than the team that you will build later on. What else? Universities. In what sense?
Well, if you are creating your product or technology under an university umbrella, you have to give some IP issues, or probably you're going to have some trouble. Not trouble, but you have to understand how it works.
Any other reasons to get attached or be in touch with universities?
Building your team.
Yeah, talent, research. If you have like a technical problem, you want to know like what's the cutting edge research on this problem, right? You need to go back to university. You don't want to reinvent the wheel, spend on your R&D while universities already figured this out, right? So universities. There's another category, missing one.
Venture capital, angels, venture capital.
Investors. Spouses.
But you've got that in family.
Yeah, but it's worth put them in like. Yeah, Bradfield, he's the one who started Techstars. He wrote like series of books, and one of them has to do with like how do you manage like your relationship while building a startup. Very interesting book. What about professional services? Right? Give me some examples for professional services you will need. Lawyers.
A good business consultant.
Say again?
A good business consultant.
Business consultant.
Accounting.
Accounting.
Yeah.
Marketeer.
Yeah.
PR. Graphic designer. User interface. And
Gatekeeper.
industrial design. Sorry?
You have like a person who works in your company who is like a gatekeeper who keeps you from spending money on services that are a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a very important component.
this person will be part of your team, right?
Yes.
But the other professionals, those are service providers.
Do you think they are different from suppliers?
Yes. What's the difference?
They manage, well, suppliers of services.
Exactly. They are service providers. They provide you service. They don't provide products. They provide you with services. Right? If they are selling a product, they will be suppliers. Right? Another missing category is mentors and advisors. Very, very important. Why this is very important? Try to link back to what we discussed in the last couple of days.
Because of the input in terms of critical decision making that is being done, particularly at an early stage in the company, almost all decisions are huge.
What do they have? What they are giving you? Experience. And what did we say about experience the last couple?
May or may not be wrong.
Yeah, but we said what's experience in the context of the startup system?
Real experience.
Huh?
Creating other companies, real experience.
Yeah, we give some sort of a definition of what's experience in the context of startups.
They may know who to call to solve a problem quickly and
Yeah.
inexpensively.
So they give you contacts, they give you timing, the sense of timing. When should you start hiring? When should you start raising funding? When you should start go out and selling? It's enough product development. It's good enough. It doesn't need to be perfect. Enough of that. Go and sell now. Try to find the first customers. They are the one who will give you this kind of sense of milestones or important decisions because they have the experience. They have been there. right? Yes, their experience might be biased, skewed, and that's why you're trying to get mentors or advisors who are very much in line with the kind of industry, the kind of business you're trying to build, right? They have been through the same industry, the same type of startup. But this is what they are trying to do, right? Give you the sense, give you the context, the networks, right? Give you maybe some insights, some ideas, some business modeling, right?
You want to know other entrepreneurs with links. This other entrepreneur could find the mentors.
Say again.
It's important to network with other entrepreneurs, right?
I don't get what you're trying to say.
I'm trying to say.
So the mentors get you.
Try to ask, would they be a different kind of stakeholder, or would you put them under this?
Okay. So other entrepreneurs would be under mentors and advisors?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, usually mentors and advisors, they are like experienced entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, maybe experienced executives, which is a bit risky, but someone who have been there, right? You have a question? No? Okay.
Actually meant entrepreneurs who are in the same position that where you are. Powerhouse, I'm sure. So to know people who do the same thing as you do. This is useful.
Yeah, it could be. So like, I would, you know what? I would lump this into the community because it's like a general category. If you have investment, I wouldn't this as a stakeholder. I was about to put like board of directors or board of advisors as stakeholder, but in essence, it's a collection of other stakeholders from here, right? So this is the. Are we missing any other category?
In which category you can classify incubators, accelerators, companies, or kind of environment?
Good point.
Partners, perhaps?
Could be partners.
Service providers.
Could be service providers. They're providing a service actually. But they are not like a very basic stakeholder, I would say. You can further break them down. So I think this is good enough. So the system I showed to you yesterday, this was a system of variables interacting together, right? Variables. But this one, this is the context of groups of people that you will be dealing with, right? And as anything that we discussed, it's very dynamic. The emphasis, the needs will be changing depending on the stage you are in. Like for example, if you already started sales and you're already established, the emphasis on mentors and advisors goes down because probably at that time you will hire professional people, you will have board of directors, so you wouldn't need mentors and advisors, right? And so forth. I mean, the emphasis will change. Like in the first few months, you wouldn't be focusing on building the team. I mean, just you and your co-founder, right? So this is the context. The next thing we need to speak about is differences in industries, right? So give me examples of startup industries. Internet. Biotech. Healthcare. Big data. Shipping. Consumer products. Automotive. Yeah, professional services or businesses. Space transportation, becoming a commercial industry now. Robotics. Medical devices. Huh? Transportation.
Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence, is it an industry? Is it an industry or it's more of a technology?
Well, it will be an industry.
Maybe.
Energy.
Energy?
I would do everything retail.
E-commerce or commerce in general, right?
Not necessarily that. I mean,
Any retail,
any
yeah.
product.
True, any retail.
I wouldn't exclude
Yeah,
anything.
true. Tons of industries, right? Here's the trick. Do you know what it is? What is this? What is this? Bell curve, normal distribution. What's the theory behind the normal distribution?
It's normal.
What does it mean? Like for people who don't have any like mathematical background.
Changing time versus another component.
Okay.
Most people are average, if you are way above, and if you are way below.
It's an abstraction of something that does not actually really model what's actually happening in the world at any given moment.
Okay. So I'll not claim that I'm the best person to describe this, but I will tell you the way I understand it. The way I understand it that anything in life, if you want to kind of classify it randomly, you will find very small group of things here, and another small group of things here, and a large group of things here. So there are three distinct groups. This group will have kind of extreme attributes of whatever characteristics you're trying to understand, and this one will have the other extreme of the characteristics, and all the one in the middle will be like average. Do you have any examples for that?
Test scores.
Test scores, right? Very few people will get A's, very few will get D's and whatever C's, and the majority will get B's, right? Other examples?
Body weight.
Huh?
Body weight.
Exactly, body weight. If you run this across the world population, you will find this. Very few overweight, very few like underweight, and the majority falls in this category. Not perfectly, but let's say this. Length of people, any random thing, right? And the same applies for whatever we're trying to discuss today on startups. And the characteristics that I'm trying to understand here is the industry, right? So let's say, let's take one aspect like funding, for example, right? We discussed yesterday the stages of the life cycle that you go through it. And we said, like, in the beginning, you will raise money from friends and family, and later on you go for seed funding, which is like 10, 50K, and then you will go to angel investors, 100, 200K, and then VCs, right? This is true for the majority of industries. But there are outliers. What are the outliers? Any idea?
Biomedical.
Exactly. How biomedical is different?
You need an inordinately large amount of capital to cover the fact that you need to be researching for potentially 10
Exactly.
years before you can sell your
You cannot start a biomedical company with friends and family money. You cannot. Because the upfront investment is huge. Right? So this kind of like friends and family seed is not applicable in biomedical, right? And so biomedical will be here. What would be outlier here?
Something you can launch on a Kickstarter or something that
Like what?
internet companies.
Internet companies, right? You can start an internet company. I mean, basically on your own. If you know programming, you sit down, you do everything. If you know how to do it, you do it. You don't need lots of money, right? And if you are successful and you are very lucky and you have like lots of users and someone got interested in what you are doing and they will offer you tons of money and you sell the company without even like raising VC money, right? Could happen, right? It's very rare. Could happen. So these are outliers. The same approach applied financial, team-wise, product development, customer acquisition, management, and so forth. Like, yes, the majority of the companies you can start with 2 to 5 people. Usually this is like the range. But there are outliers that start with large number of people, and there are companies that start with 1 person. Right? So just be aware of that there are differences between industries when you are looking at that. Do you have any specific question? Because I cannot go over all the industries. If you have questions regarding specific industry, let's discuss this now. Are you interested in like specific industry that you want to discuss differences between this industry and other ones? Yes?
So for advanced materials or organic materials, for
Yep.
example, do you have an idea about traditionally what is required for startup capital?
So, key questions. Do you need upfront investment for that? Do you need special machinery? Do you need special... Okay, so now you are moving into similar to a biomedical company, right? Or a pharmaceutical, right? Because basically you need to do research on the material itself, right? Is there any way that you can like find alternative funding for this kind of thing?
Government funding, perhaps.
Could be. SBIR grants. How many of you heard about SBIR? What SBIR stands for? Yeah. So SBIR are grants from the government that are distributed to government agencies, mainly Department of Defense, NIH, National Institute for Health, NSF, National Science Foundation, these kind of government agencies. And these government agencies, they have like announcements about interested technologies that they are interested in. If it happened that what you are working on is in line with one of these programs, you can apply, right? It's a long process. You need to find someone to help you on writing the proposal. They have some requirements, but it's another alternative. Getting money from investors might be an interesting thing. First, easy, not easy. Second, it's very tricky because of the control thing. You can easily lose control of the company, easily, right? And at a certain point, the investors can control the direction of the company, right? So it's very tricky. You need to think about it. You need to ask about the investors. Don't just like rush for getting investment money and be happy that, yeah, I got like 100K from this investor or they're willing to invest in me. Because if what you're working on is really interesting and very innovative, you'll find lots of... Right? So it's very tricky and there is lots of dynamics and how you can negotiate term sheets, the sheet that the investor give you, kind of like an offer letter, right? This is the term, this is what I'm proposing, this is my offer, right? How you can understand, how you can read it, how you can negotiate it. What are like the traps usually in a term sheet? So it's a whole thing that you need to build your competence, and mentors and advisors can help you, can save you lots of time, lots of effort. But it's an area that you need to be careful about. So SBIR government grants. So back to your question, upfront investment. Another problem in biomedical companies is the long approval process from the FDA. So they need to go through a long process. This is like 2-3 years process before they have a product they can sell. So the timing of the company is totally different than like internet companies or consumer products, right? Timing is also like time to market, the time to launch your product. Like if it's an internet business, you can launch a product in 3 months or 6 months. But biomedical, no way. At least 2-3 years. And you need to have a continuous flow of funding, right? So very important to notice these kind of differences. Another thing, so this is the high-level description of the startup system that we discussed yesterday. And we said that this is the employee section, the product development, sales and marketing, and the financials. And we said that this is covering almost everything that you will face inside your company, with the exception of very few things, right? But this is basically most of the variables, most of the components that you will be faced with, decisions you will need to make, things you need to think about, things you need to manage, rates that you need to look at. But what we haven't spent time discussing yesterday is the ecosystem. So what are the specific things in the location and the geography you are working on that you need to pay attention to, right? What are the differences? These are the differences. So so by the way, all of these are indicators, global indicators that lots of international organizations, they develop like indexes for individual countries. And this was very helpful for the business model, because once I build the model, now I plug the different values for the different countries, and the model is simulating a different country, right? We'll speak about that. So higher education and training. So the level of education in the country that you're working on, the competence of the people that you are hiring or you are dealing with. Competition. How tough is the competition in the market you are in? Are there lots of competitors, few competitors? Are they competing on quality or they're competing on price? Business sophistication. How is the kind of like business ecosystem is structured? Are there lots of professional services? Is it easy to have like partners and suppliers and have agreements with? Or this is a very tricky thing? Many things that we take for granted here in the US are not the same in other geographies. So business sophistication. Fear of failure, we spoke about that yesterday, and this is a cultural thing. How failure is perceived in the geography that you're working on. In the Middle East or in Asia, failure is a shame, right? And sometimes if you bankrupt your company, probably you cannot start another company. And you cannot like get investment or whatever. I mean, you are screwed. While in the US, this could be actually a good thing that you started a company and you failed. I mean, you have been through it, you have the experience, so it's actually a positive thing. So there are differences between geographies in perceiving failure. Media, what's the perception of entrepreneurship and startups in the media, how they portray it to the community, to the population. Infrastructure, mainly this has to do with electricity, internet. Imagine if you are working in a place in like Africa where you don't have a reliable electrical grid, or you don't have a high-speed internet, right? These are differences. And institutions, this has to do with the national institutions in the country. Has to do with, do you have a patent office, a functional patent office that can secure your intellectual property? What about the rule of the law? What about corruption? All these kind of things. So the institutions that run the country that you are working on, because if you don't have these kind of institutions, you can still succeed, but you need to plan for it, right? You need to accommodate for it. Like, there are lots of successful companies, for example, in the Middle East. How they make it? They accommodate for these kind of things. But if you are an Egyptian raised in the US, and you are used to like the structure and everything, and you go to Egypt and you want to start a business, you will be faced by all sorts of bureaucracies, all sorts of corruption, and all sorts of things, right? How you accommodate for that, how you deal with that. Technological readiness. How is the market is ready to absorb the kind of technologies that you're working on? Like, for example, I mean, let's imagine a country where they have problems in reliable electricity, for example, right? Rural areas, they don't have reliable electricity. You cannot go there and sell them robotics, right? They have more basic needs. So how ready is your market? R&D innovation, this has to do with the innovation movement in the country. Does the universities do like research? Do they have like things coming out of their labs? What about the patent movement? What about licensing? Can you license things? So R&D innovation. Market size, very important. Many times, and I have seen this over and over, many times people come up with great ideas that has a real need, right? But the people who will need such a product are a very small number of people, right? Give me an example of that. A product or an idea that you can sell it for a very small number of people. Any idea?
Space travel.
Space travel. Okay, let's take this.
Yeah.
Who needs or yeah, that's why it's tricky, because sometimes you could have a small market, but it's a niche market. They can't afford paying for it, right? So that's why space is a bit tricky. Let's say that you come up with an idea to make it easy for people to learn Swahili. Swahili is the language in South Africa. It's one of those like early languages they have, right? So you came up with amazing algorithm, amazing tool that can make you learn this language in a couple of months. Amazing, right? How many people will buy this from you? Very few, right? There is no huge demand that would justify the time and resources that you will invest in building this thing. So a very important question that you need to ask yourself, is there a large enough market would justify me putting the time and the effort building this product or this service? Very important. That's why the initial customer or market research is very important to get a sense of the size of the market, right? That's why investors and mentors and in a startup competition, one of the key questions is, what's the market size?